Welcome to JuaN Games. Get ready in 3, 2, 1. Hello guys, welcome to episode 1 of JuaN Games. So today we're gonna talk about an article I saw in Washington City paper. It is called New Wine Bar, Barkada, to change name after backlash on social media. So basically, my wine bar sa US that is called Barkada. And it's not owned by Filipino but rather 3 white men. And also they don't serve Filipino food, but they serve wine and cheese. And the backlash is because of what they called cultural appropriation. So sa mga hindi nakakaalam kung ano yung cultural appropriation, ito yung cultural appropriation is the adoption of elements of one culture by members of another culture. Magiging controversial ito dahil pag ang dominant culture nag-appropriate ng culture ng mga minorities without benefiting the minorities, then it is called cultural appropriation. So, isa yun sa mga complaints na they're selling wine that is coming from Spain. And then, alam naman natin with our history that Spain colonized the Philippines for 333 years. That's isa yun sa mga reklamo ng Filipino Americans there. And also, just using the word na hindi na and profiting from it, tapos the Filipino community there is not benefiting from it. Also, another complaint is they call it racism as well. So, nako-consider siya as racism dahil lang sa dynamics or power struggle na nasa US ngayon. Also, ito pa, they're recalling of their white privilege. So, to those who don't know white privilege is an inherent advantages possessed by a white person on the basis of their race in a society characterized by racial inequality and injustice. So basically, pag puti ka, mas marami kang advantage compared sa minority. Kahit wala kang ginagawa. When you are born white, you are born with that privilege. For example, yata, when a foreigner, especially an American or a European, pagpupunta dito sa Pinas, it seems that we are head over heels to them. I don't know why, really. Maybe because of we are so attracted to the whites that pagpupunta sila dito para silang hari at reyna. And I have a funny story about this. Like, I have a friend in Cebu who is a motorcycle enthusiast. So, lagi siyang nagmomotor. His mom is Filipina, and then his dad is American. So, this guy speaks fluently in Bisaya. But however, every time na nahuhuli siya ng LTO, dahil kasi yung motor niya ay maraming modification, so every time na tinatawag siya, ang ginagawa niya lang, sabi niya sa akin, is he starts to speak English. And sinasabi niya na hindi daw siya nakakapagsalita ng Bisaya, English lang daw siya, and yung LTO naman na nanghuhuli, most of the time daw, pinapakawalan na lang siya. Binibigyan lang siya ng warning. I don't know, maybe because ayaw nating makipag-argue in English, I guess so. Or maybe nai-intimidate tayo when someone speaks English. So, I'm not sure if that is white privilege. So, comment down below if that is considered as white. But, funny as it is na imagine ko, yeah, probably it is white privilege. So, I'm sorry for my friend that I'm calling out. You have white privilege, dude. Also, so, here in my part, naman, to be honest, I can never see what they see. Sa mga Filipino-American na kapatid natin dyan sa States, I could never see what they see. Di ko maiintindihan yung struggle nila kasi hindi ako lumaki in the same environment as they are. I grew up in mostly Filipino people around me. Having the same advantage as I do, or having the same resources as I have. I'm not saying not saying included yung mga financially privileged. Hindi. Because I grew up in a province where everyone has the same privilege. So, I'm not rich. I won't consider myself poor either. So, I all grew up having just enough. Enough lang. Enough for my needs. So, I could never see them eye to eye. So, here in the Philippines, Filipino have their own struggles like putting food in their table 3 times a day. Struggle na yun for an ordinary Filipino. Corruption, political injustice, crime, drugs. That's the struggle of an ordinary Filipino. That's why I could never see their struggle. But it doesn't mean that their struggle is not a struggle. Doesn't mean that their struggle is less than my struggle. It's just that I could not see them eye to eye. Also, as I've researched about this, the word Barkada pala comes from a Spanish word, Barkada with a C. It is called, the Barkada is a boat where the slaves, and the Spanish time, where the slaves are sent off in a boat to be sent off to Spain or other colonies. It's called a Barkada. So I guess that's where the Filipino got that word, because you are in that boat for a long time dahil sa hina ng travel noon. The other slaves that are on that boat becomes your friends, and you become allies because you have the same fate. That's where Barkada, the word Barkada, came from. So I also researched, since we used Barkada, is it cultural appropriation? So nag-research ako, is it reverse cultural appropriation? So based sa article na nakita ko, hindi daw mako-consider reverse cultural appropriation if a person in minority using a culture of a dominant culture. Because of the power structure. Dahil hindi daw distributed horizontally ang power dahil sa power structure. Especially in the US. So, there is no such thing as a reverse cultural appropriation according to this article. So, ang repercussion na nangyari doon based sa article and the demands of the Capital Region Filipino-American community in the States, first is to change the name. Kailangan nilang i-change yung name. Second, issue an apology that reflects an understanding of white privilege and cultural appropriation. And third, become allies for the Black, Indigenous, people of color community, or BIPOC. Also, they have demands for the news outlet covering the DC food scene. First is hire more writers and editors of color. Then educate again with white privilege and cultural appropriation. Second, give equal news coverage to BIPOC business owners. So yun yung demand ng community doon sa states. So in conclusion, masasabi ko lang is I could never be on boat with this. Just because I don't see them eye to eye. I could not identify with them. If the owners of the restaurant gonna ask me if it's okay to use that name, I would say yes. But it's not for me to decide. I could say yes, but it's not for me to decide. The ones that are going to decide that is the community where they are. If it's offensive for that community, then yes, they could not use that name or prepare for the backlash or prepare for the repercussions that are going to happen. So how about you guys? What do you think of this Barkada wine bar? Is it okay to use this? Are you on board with this cultural appropriation, white privilege, or racism? What do you think about these things? Comment down below and let's have a conversation. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us here on One News. If you found value in our show, we'd appreciate a like, a rating, or a comment. And don't forget to subscribe. Be sure to tune in. Signing off in 3, 2, 1.